Yeah.
Where'd you guys go here?
Dude, we were in the Southern Sierras. We were in this place called Kennedy Meadows.
Never heard of it. Where is it?
It's right on the southern tip. It's pretty close to, if I get my geography right, it's pretty close to Mojave.
Okay.
And like maybe we were heading through the Mojave Desert, and then I think we turned left, or we did turn left, and I'd say it was about like an hour and a half into the Sierras.
Full camping, like
full on camping.
Full on camping.
First time I've ever done that.
No shit. You've never been camping before?
No,
like,
I've been camping, but in cabins. And after this experience, I don't feel like that's in fact camping.
No, it's not.
No,
I don't consider it.
No, it's definitely not. It's definitely not.
I feel like that's more of like a vacation. If you get a cabin with some friends and stuff, you guys are just going out there to chill. But like camping, that's my idea of like an actual vacation, because it's 2 or 3 days. It's short. It's fairly reasonable as far as price, and you just go somewhere for literally 2-3 days, sleep in a tent on an air mattress, just chill in the wild away from everything. That's camping for me.
No, and that's exactly what it was.
Yeah,
and it was nutty. Like it was nutty. Like I enjoy the outdoors. Like you know, I've surfed my whole life. Like being in the water. Half Himalayan, so I've spent a lot of time in the mountains. Yeah, my mother's Himalayan,
nice.
And but it's just like the experience that I had at this time was just tenfold, way more than what I expected.
Good,
and
even better.
Yeah, it was just amazing, and what it like. You know what it's gonna do for your body. You know what it's gonna do for your mind. You have an idea, but then its effect on you like surpasses your expectation.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It was nutty, dude. It was like. Shout out to Stefan for like I told him, I was like, dude, this experience I had, I could only ever have with you. Like this is not something I would have gone out and done.
Right, just on the regular.
You know, he's Mr. Jeep extraordinaire.
Yep.
So like
Mr. Outdoorsman.
I'd say
shout out my boy.
You know, shout out. So I'd say like maybe even like the last hour leading up to the campground was just all off-roading.
Yeah.
4x4 and. You know, we kept joking that it was like the old Silverado commercials, like a rock and whatnot, you know, and it's cool.
Did they use the song too in that?
They used
that.
They
did, right?
They used that.
Epic.
Yeah, so, so yeah, no man, it was amazing. And honestly, I didn't expect to be so keen on going back. Like, since we've come back, I'm like, I need another one of those. Like, it's almost like a
totally.
drug.
It's a different kind of feeling. I mean, with me, I think I've gone years where I've had like 4 or 5 camping trips in a year, because I think it's just so easy to set up. Obviously, if you have like a bigger group, it's a little tougher, but if you have like 1 or 2 people, usually I feel like the smaller groups, when you go camping, it's a little more serene and it's a little more like tight-knit and personal, because you're just going for like 1 or 2 days away. Literally, my favorite thing is just being away from everything. Phone's in the car, everything's away, and it's whatever you guys bring, whatever you guys want to do and go explore, just sitting by the camp, setting it up. It's like a whole experience.
No, dude, it's nutty, because I thought that there was going to be like a little bit of like just like a little bit of a buffer between getting out of city life and going into, you know, the natural world. But nah,
buffer as far as like your like how comfortable you are with being?
Just like readjusting to not pulling out your phone, readjusting to not like, you know, having gizmos and gadgets there, readjusting to not having things to do. Like all of a sudden your chores and your errands go on the back burner.
Yeah, everything stops for a couple days.
It's not the case at all. Like it's like you get there and within an hour you're just immersed into that world, and it kind of also makes you realize how primal we are. You know, like, and how much all of that is a necessity. And while like this world is cool and technology is cool and, you know, hustle bustle is necessary, it's definitely not. It's like still kind of foreign to us as like primal beings.
Yeah, I think that buffer is there for a lot of people. I think you're an intellect going into the wild, so you're going there with an already like you're going with an acceptance that I can be okay without my gizmos. Hey, I'm doing this for my mind. I'm doing this for it really. It's something that kind of clicks with someone like you, I think, fairly easy. But there's a lot of people that go out there and they get like, I can't be on my phone. What's going on? Everything is just like falls off for them, and that's not for everybody. Like camping's not for everybody. But the fact that you went there for the first time and enjoyed it, that's because I'm telling you, it's going to change everything. Because now you're going to look for times to do that during the year moving forward.
100%.
If you're not already,
dude, 100%. Like I've already spoken to Stefan about it, and I'm just like. Yeah, it's exactly that. It's like I've been looking up like on Reddit like good trails or good campgrounds like along the beach or something, you know, and I'm checking out like where the Metro link will get me, and
That is what I'm saying. This is the
yeah,
full intellect thing. You count me in for the next trip, by the way.
dude,
Stefan, waiting on you,
100%.
waiting on the
We'll
invite.
make it
But
happen.
yeah, the fact that, I mean, you go to something like that, it's something really as simple as going camping. And for a lot of people, it's not like this big, grandiose thing. But you came back and you started looking for trails. You started doing the research. You want to actually go places that can do a lot for you without you having to do a lot for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I guess like to someone who's not like keen on that, or just doesn't spend much time in any type of nature,
Yeah.
like I'd probably say like like you're when you're in those environments, you're like a different version of yourself. I'm not saying you're better or worse or
Right.
whatever, you're a different version of yourself, and it's like check that out. Like, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what I miss, along with the nature and all of that, and being out in the wilderness and interacting, and um, it's just like, man, I just miss like that version of myself that I was
Yeah.
over there, because it's just like so peaceful, so calm. You have a lot more perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm gonna try to set one up like ASAP, because it's one of those things like I'm jonesing for it in the opposite way. Like I want to go back again, because I'm not taking 2 weeks to go to Paris, a week and a half to go to Italy. Like those kind of travels are something I think that takes a fair enough time to coordinate, and
Yeah.
you're doing it. It's like a lot. You have to stop work. You have to do this. But if you can sneak a weekend in to drive 2-3 hours, 4 hours, and go camping somewhere and come back, and you're right back into your form, that's something I think people need to explore for themselves, because it really does bring you like a sense of calmness when you come back, because you're like, cool, I got away. I got my 2 days to reflect and think about myself and do my own thing, and now I'm back, and it's like I'm okay with getting back to the
No.
routine, because I had that.
No, 100%, 100%. It was like we went on Sunday, and then we came back on Tuesday afternoon,
Yeah,
and
perfect.
the following like 2-3 days were the most productive days I've
Right.
had this year.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was just, and it was because of that. Like it directly correlated with the experience we had in the Sierras.
Here,
Um,
up here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
totally.
up here, essentially up here.
Yeah.
Essentially up here, and yeah, and it's crazy too. Like California, you can drive 4 hours
Yeah.
and be in a totally different
Yeah.
place, like be immersed in nature, be immersed in an experience, and like you said, just drive 4 hours back.
Yeah.
And
You can even drive an hour and go to Angeles Crest somewhere
Yeah.
like super deep and find something. But I get what you're saying
Yeah.
about going out a little bit.
it's so it's like, yeah, it's, and like you said, it's so like cost minimal, and like the return is maximum.
Yeah, it's extreme. You said you came back and you were super productive. What do you do?
What did I do? I did like a bunch of errands, like a bunch of stuff that I had sort of been putting off, like stuff for my dad and my sister,
Yeah.
like helping them out with things. And I think the biggest thing I did is I went through maybe like 3 months of mail. I'm the worst at
What?
checking mail. Like,
Damn.
and I get important
Digital mail or like mail by paper?
mail.
Oh, okay.
Damn,
3 months already?
emails
Like, way behind.
I'll do, and yeah, I just like kept putting it off, and it's not even like putting it off, like it doesn't occur to me because my dad
Right.
checks the mail.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't occur to me at all, and like my dad does this thing. He's really inconsistent about like the precedence he gives mail. So sometimes if it's not important, he'd be
Right.
like, "Yo, you have to check this out."
Mhm.
And then sometimes if it is important, he'll just be like super casual.
Yeah, interesting. That
So
works.
I usually like I forget to like not gauge the mail by the way
By
he's
his,
telling
yeah.
me about it, So I was thinking, I was like, man, like I haven't gone through the mail in a while, and but he hasn't said anything about it.
So maybe it's okay.
Maybe it's okay. And then it wasn't okay.
It was not
but,
okay. Got it.
But 2 days of 3 months of mail, and sift through everything we had to do. So.
Yeah, and then you get back to like level playing field and you
Yeah.
keep going from there. Nice, man. Well, I met you at Below Decks, which was our all vinyl night, and
which needs to come back.
Needs to come back.
It needs to come back.
Yeah,
If you have not been to this event, you need to go to this event.
yeah, it's one of those shows where, I mean, because the four of us, me, Stefan, Michael Pham, and Narek, the guys, Stefan and Pham, have obviously been DJs, and they've been into music a little longer than Narek and I have, for as much, at least I can speak for myself. I'm not sure about Narek, but the whole vinyl collection thing started really coming about in the last like 2 years with us, and Stefan had the connection with El Dorado, and he was just pretty much, hey, do you guys want to just have a night on a Monday? So it's not like we were expecting some big grandiose party, but invite a couple people, keep it kind of intimate, and everybody bring some records. I mean, I fucking jumped on and played some records at some point, which says a lot. You don't want to see that at an event anytime.
No, dude, it was all good. It was all good. I mean, I think what's so cool about Below Decks is that it's really an education.
Yeah.
Like, and it's really cool how, like, I feel like I'm in an art gallery or a museum, the way
Interesting.
you guys curate the music there. And it's super cool because if you're, like, you know, house music has such a history,
Right.
and it's so embedded in so many movements. And it's also, like, really interesting how, like, I think maybe more than other genres, it really reflects the cultures and the background of the people that are making it. You
Okay.
know, so like my buddy Joey Diaz, shout out Joey. He
Joey
was
Diaz, like Joey Diaz, Joey Diaz.
no, not Joey Diaz. This
Oh,
is
okay. I
like
was like, Jesus
this
Christ.
is Culver City's Joey
Got
Diaz.
it.
Um,
So not the one that. Okay.
no,
got it,
no,
never
not the
mind.
one. But Joey was like, for a little while, was really into like the Turkish house music that was coming out in the 70s out of
Interesting.
Istanbul and Ankara. And yeah, so it's really cool because then, you know, their movements and their cultures that I feel like in house music are expressed more than
Yeah.
maybe in other genres. And I think Below Decks does like a really cool job of curating
Bringing
that
it out.
and bringing it out.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. I mean, it was just such like I think like an honest intention of us just hey, let's have a Monday night. If anything, if we are able to work something out with the spot that benefits us as a collective, cool. But it was just like, again, it's just doing it for the art, doing it to be able to put out stuff that we normally might not be able to because it's an all vinyl thing. And that's it's just, I can kind of see how you make that like connection with house music and the people's backgrounds because a lot of artists come from a struggle background and they're able to put it out in their music. I think hip hop might be the genre I would think that might be a little bit more of that because I feel like the rap and the hip hop is, I mean, lyrically and the vibe and the energy is directly correlated to their circumstance.
No, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, and I just think also like with Below Decks, I think it's like a good education. Like I think for younger people that are coming into the scene and that are like getting into house music,
Yeah.
I think events like that, vinyl nights. I know that like Beat Swap meet for me when I was like in my early 20s was such an education. You know, it's the same way Low End Theory for so many people
Yeah.
was such an education. And so I really feel like Below Decks is kind of in a similar vein where it's
Wow.
like you come there and not only are you going to listen to good music by good DJs, not only is it like a super friendly environment, but you're going to get an education. You're
Yeah.
going to be immersed to something that's really going to like click, and you're going to go home and you're going to check out that one track that
Yeah.
you listen to,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're going to just go down the rabbit hole
Yeah.
and find more.
Well, that's very kind of you to say.
No,
Really
no,
appreciate it.
props.
And being anything in the conversation with Low End Theory, I can honestly say that's one of the shows that maybe even like led to the start of all of this of the 900 block. I mean, Narek and I used to go to Low End Theory every Wednesday night, and it was just the sound that they brought was so eclectic. It was hip hop, drum and bass, electronic, experimental, Gaslamp in his own fucking world. You know what I mean? So it's like all that started. We were at shows and we're like, we can put something on like this. We can put something on that brings stuff that we like, because that's what Low End Theory was to us. It was a place where it's not like the commercial stuff you see on a regular, but it's whoever is performing, it's their art that they want to share, raw, full raw. Like there's it's not that there's no filter, but they did it how they wanted to do it, and I think that's why it was so successful for so long.
No, 100%, man, 100%. I mean, it was really cool too because I think you kind of bunched all those DJs together at some point once Low End Theory became an institution.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, if you were to like look at each of the DJs individually, they all were really different.
Yeah, totally.
You know, like obviously, like Gaslamp, but Daddy Kev had a different sound.
No Such Thing.
No Such Thing had a super different sound. Nobody had a
Yep.
different sound. My favorite and probably my favorite LA, DJ D Styles had
Okay.
a completely different sound, and yeah, it was really cool though. It was really cool because each one of those DJs was kind of just playing their own music every night, and it just worked
It just
so
worked to the
well
crowd, yeah.
because, like you said, it was so authentic.
Yeah, I agree. Authenticity is it's not that it's hard to come around here, but a lot of people I think don't kind of. It's not that they don't know what it means, but they don't know how to apply it. Because I think a lot of people, for the most part, their intentions are authentic unless it's someone that's literally in it to make it, in it to make the money, in it to for clout, in it to just kind of do it for themselves. I don't think that's as prevalent in LA. So I feel like a lot of people, the authenticity is just how you're able to show it and how it translates to the people. Because if you can't translate to your audience, your authenticity isn't there technically.
No, I mean 100%. I'm not an artist by any means, but I think like that's what defines someone who participates in art.
Yeah.
And someone who's an actual artist is just how that translates.
Yeah.
You know, because I think art too. It's comes from, like in its inception. If you're an artist, it comes out of appreciation. It comes out of like fandom.
Okay.
And so, the good ones, the great ones, are able to then translate
Yeah.
that appreciation into something more unique to themselves. And it's not to say like, people that aren't as good, don't make art, but it's, people that aren't as good, obviously, they don't translate as much of a unique experience.
Yeah, I feel you. Well, you got a lot of notes there, man. What do you got? What do you got for us? Let's touch on some stuff.
Well, so here's the thing, man. So you invited me to this podcast, which is, primarily house music. I've been out of the scene for so long.
Okay.
And so I was kind of thinking to myself, I don't want to talk about, 5 years ago when I
Right.
was involved in the scene.
Right.
Also, like, though I did the doors for so many parties, that was kind of like
Oh, that was your
all
thing.
my
You did that.
experience
Right.
was just doing the doors. I'm not overly into house music.
Right.
I'm usually in bed by 12 a.m., hence I rarely make it out to
Yeah,
your shows.
no worries.
Hence Stefan has stopped inviting me too. Like he just knows now that if he's playing after 1 a.m.
Oh, forget about it.
then
Yeah.
I'm not gonna show.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking about like what I wanna, like what if I had an audience,
Yeah.
on this podcast.
Correct.
What would I want to talk about? And what's really been on my mind lately, and something that I have kind of been working on, is just recycling and
Recycling,
and
okay.
consumption and waste. I work at a brewery over in Union Station at Imperial Western, and I was just able to get a recycling program started.
Nice.
And so for like we found this woman, this very sweet woman in Echo Park, who collects recycling from a couple of bars.
Okay.
And so we asked her if she'd do our brewery, and she agreed to. And so thankfully, man, after like about I think 9 months of just throwing away our bottles and cans,
Yeah.
Or bottles in our case, the last 2 weeks we've had someone pick up
That's awesome.
our recycling.
That's awesome.
And so what was interesting is when I was having this conversation with my GM Stevo, who's
Yeah, I know Steve-O.
Yeah, you know
Yeah.
Stevo.
Yeah.
Glendale local.
Yeah.
Also
Yeah.
grew up with Stefan. He was talking about how like most bars don't.
So they
don't-
just get
don't
rid of their
recycle.
shit?
They just throw their stuff away.
That seems so like that. I feel like the quantity that they have, it doesn't make sense to just toss it out and not think to care to. I mean, recycling is only going to benefit everybody. So what's the point of just tossing it out if you're going to be generating fucking bottles after bottles after? Oh man,
I mean,
that doesn't make sense.
That's
to me.
what common sense would
Right.
would dictate. But unfortunately, I think like when you get into like the business of nightlife, recycling is gonna be the last thing you do
Sure.
at night, and at that point, you just want to leave.
Yeah.
And so I think it's the first thing that goes on the wayside.
Right.
And so I started thinking about like my time working in the scene, and it was like very seldom do I remember the venues that I was at or
Right.
the parties that were
Right.
being thrown would recycle or just give precedence to the waste management and the consumption.
Yeah.
And this is like a massive problem. I know like people are tired of talking about it, people are tired of hearing it. The topic has kind of just been butchered and dragged
Sure.
through the mud, but it's a massive problem that we have. And I do think like the underground scene here can play a really, really big role in helping fix that problem and bringing awareness to that problem. And I think it's like it's a worthwhile conversation having.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
And I think more so, I think people would enjoy participating in something like this. I
Absolutely.
think people do care. I just think there's like a slight little lapse
Yeah.
between the thought and the action, and I really feel like the scene can help bridge that gap.
Yeah.
House music is a community, and that's I think the beauty of it is that it's such a community and it's such a strong community.
Mhm.
And so like I would really hope and that like maybe this community can help
Yeah, definitely.
just make a difference, bring a change. And so many people participate in the community that I think the ripple effects would also be
Yep.
far-reaching.
Yep.
You know.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where I agree that what you're saying, like, people care. I just think they don't know that they care.
Yeah.
Like, they know that if an opportunity came up where it was, it's just maybe convenient. Some people are fucking lazy. People don't want to, like, have to really try to break the mold themselves and do it. But if let's say our collective decides to start an initiative and we actually make it a thing, like how you have to almost, as much as you don't want to do it, you almost have to, like, make it an announcement. Like, hey, we're going to be integrating this into our events. We implore the community to kind of stand by us and do this with us. We can link you with someone that can come and do this for you. So you pretty much have to do the legwork for a lot of people because people are fucking lazy.
No, 100%, man. Like, that's how it was. And this isn't a shot at Imperial. I'm sure some of my coworkers will listen to this, but the thing was, management was concerned about the recycling issue at Imperial. They just, being a brand new brewery, had so many other things to do.
Right.
So it came up in conversation a couple times, and then it just became one of those things where me and my buddy Ricardo, we realized that, all right, we're just gonna have to do it ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Management's really open and flexible, so they kind of just ran with it.
Right.
But you're exactly right. I think it needs to be facilitated to people.
Yep.
And I think if, like, enough collectives like 900 Block and other venues and other parties, I think if they facilitate it actually quite quickly, it might just become an industry standard.
Yeah.
It
Ideally.
might become a scene standard.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, dude, like, house music in different parts of the world have brought upon so many social movements.
Yeah.
They
for
kind
sure.
of go. It definitely goes hand in hand. It definitely goes hand in hand. So I think that, like, with a little effort, and I think with a little, with people taking a little bit of ownership for their parties, for their product, for the experience that they're giving, I think it's gonna have, like, a very strong effect.
Yeah, absolutely. And just from the perspective of the collective itself, the only issue that I can think of that might happen or might arise from, like, let's say a collective trying to do this is, it's not our venue. We don't own the venue. So we would have to, let's say we want to take on this initiative and bring someone to come and take care of the recycling. We would have to kind of coordinate it with the venue owner and, hey, what about this time if they come after the party, let's say when we're all cleaning up. So I don't see it being a problem with venue owners, because you would think those people would kind of want that for themselves. That, hey, it gets rid of the trash for me. Hey, it's recycling, it's doing good, and I look good doing it, and then it helps you guys out. So, but that's the only thing I can think of, is maybe it's just not as easy getting to, let's say, like a big club venue. Like, who's the right person to talk to? Who's the person that's going to let someone come after we're done with the whole party when they just want to go home, but we want to help help do our part. But then again, I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem. I don't think it's something that's going to should prevent someone from wanting to try.
I mean, I think you're exactly right, but there might be, here and there you might find a stutter.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, a lot of venues want that image. I think a lot of venues, don't want to. If you tell them, hey, I'll deal with half of your work,
right?
They're going to be willing to, just
of course.
let
Why
you,
wouldn't they?
let you do it. But I think also what, a collective like 900 Block, which is tried and tested, you're at a point, I would assume you're at a point where you have relationships with the venues where you can also kind of dictate.
Yeah,
so
a
I
little
think
bit.
that's, like, an important thing that, like, parties and collectives can do, is that they can search out venues that also would be willing to recycle or have recycling programs. I think that, if enough collectives do that, if enough parties do that, then that helps make a standard where it's like, all right,
you're going to be the
venues,
collective not doing that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And so I think there's, like, just one of the things you can do is look for a venue that will help facilitate or help you facilitate like a recycling thing. I think another thing that collectives can do is that, they do can drives, where they're
they collect stuff.
You could do, like, a bottle drive, or like a like recycled can drive, where you have people, like, bring their recycling to the party. You have, like, an area set up for it. You can arrange for somebody to, like, come and pick it up or take it yourselves. And maybe, like, all right, you bring, like, 5 glass bottles or like 8 aluminum
Sure.
cans, and you get
You
like
get
a
entry.
free drink,
Or free entry to the event, something like
free
that.
entry
Yeah,
to the
that's a
event,
full
something like
fundraising
that.
type. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, you know, and can drives are a big hit. Like people do it every Christmas.
Yeah.
So many parties are doing, you know, and so many venues are doing these can drives. You
Yeah.
know, and they do them with other nonprofit organizations
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. So I'm sure they're like, you know, there's Friends of the LA River, and they're like other nonprofits over here
Yeah.
that would, you know, would love to participate and help
Yeah.
arrange and, you know, make these things happen. So
Absolutely.
I think, or you know, this is like kind of crazy, but you know, maybe not the most practical, but it's a thought. Like, you know, bring your own cup type
Yeah.
thing. You know,
I feel like that could even be easier for people than bringing your own recycling, because
You
a lot
know-
of people are like, I don't want to carry cans, I don't want to carry bottles in my car, blah blah blah. But if you say bring your own cup, people are like, cool, sure,
Yeah,
I'll just grab it and put it
that's
in my
it.
car in my cup holder and bring it over.
and there you
That's
go.
an interesting idea.
Yeah, bring
I
your own
never thought-
cup,
yeah.
like, you know, and you just have like a sink there to wash out, like every time they get a drink
Right.
to wash it out, and you know they get another drink. So there are like little things that, you know, from I think like a structural point of view that you can do.
Yeah.
You know, and I think people would, you know, obviously you can't make every party a bring your own cup, or
Right.
every
Can
party
drive
a
or-
can drive or
right.
something like that. But you know, every once in a while, maybe on Earth Day, if you're throwing
Sure.
a party on Earth Day weekend, or I'm sure there are other like recycling inspired Hallmark holidays,
Right,
you
right.
know, like you can kind of piggyback off of that,
Yeah.
and that'll give context and, you know, just give some practicality to the event. And then I think like what would be really cool about doing stuff like this
Mhm.
is that I just think it kind of would seep into people's personal lives.
Right.
You know, I think, you know, it would motivate people to like, because if they've saved like 5 pieces of glass for your party, they probably just realize that I can just save like,
Yeah.
you know,
X amount, whatever
X
I use.
amount
Yeah.
every time I use it. Another thing I think like people can do is that it's a really lucrative business, recycling. I read somewhere that like I think last year in the state of California, $308 million in like bottle refunds
Yeah.
were
Jesus
not
Christ.
like
Oh, we're not giving
were-
out.
We're
Because
not giving out. People didn't
Good
jump
Lord.
on. $308 million is a lot of money.
That's a
dude.
lot.
That's like a nutty amount of money.
Yeah.
So,
But that's
like,
recycling all the cans and bottles that were like sold in California. Maybe I wonder how they even get that measurement, because 308 like missed opportunities is like, that's wild. That's so much fucking money.
dude. I think what I would just off the top, I think what they do is maybe they like see how much was dumped in landfills and multiply that by the 5 or
Okay,
10
that's fair.
cents CA refund.
Right.
But
Damn.
like the woman that comes, I feel bad. I don't know her name, but the woman that comes to Imperial, like she makes her living off of this.
Right.
Like, you know,
Yeah,
and
if she's
she-
taking care of a couple clubs, yeah, for sure.
So she's making a decent amount of money, and I think also it's like you can find people to do this. Like
Right.
there are people, you know, you can go to your local recycling center, and there are people that make their living off of
Yeah.
recycling, and you can find somebody and talk to somebody and be like, hey, can you, you know, come and pick up recycling
Yeah,
from my
from this
bar,
place,
or
yeah.
from this place, or
Yeah.
from my party, and I think it'd be fairly easy to find someone who's
Oh
willing,
yeah.
you know.
Oh, I mean that you're not asking for hard labor, and I mean just to touch before, like the fact that again you're not fully integrated in like the music scene currently, that's part of the reason why I kind of asked you on, because I want this to be more than that. I want a platform. This is for everybody that's listening too. Like it's even if you're not involved in the music industry or whatever it is, I would love to have everybody on, because this I think is almost, if not more important, as far as where you're coming from, than just to have someone that is in the music scene. Hey, come talk about music for a little bit, because I don't want it to be just that. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad this is. I agree. This topic is something that people don't like to talk about helping, because they don't want to be the ones to start the conversation. That's what it is, and a lot of people are hiding, or a lot of people are not getting themselves heard, and I think that's all the difference.
No, I mean, like, you know, when I was thinking about this, you know, for Imperial, like, when I was thinking about doing this, I was hesitant, too, because I was like, man, you know, like, I've spoken to management a couple times.
Yeah.
Like, clearly, I know they're busier with other things. You don't want to be the guy poking them on the shoulder constantly, you know? But at the same time, like, I have to put my money where my mouth is.
Right.
Like, what good are your ideals and your beliefs if you're not going to act
Yeah,
on
totally.
them? And I think one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to talk about this is, on the podcast, is because it's, this is a very grand problem that we have. Pollution
Yep.
and, global warming, climate change, these are massive problems. But on the flip side, what's really interesting is that they're very tangible solutions. Something as simple as recycling. Like you recycle a single can, you save a couple hours of energy.
Damn.
You recycle a single glass bottle, you save a couple of hours of energy
Right.
as well. 95% of glass recycled one glass bottle can save 95% of the natural resources that it takes to build a new glass bottle.
Damn.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
Aluminum, one recycled aluminum can saves 100% of the energy that it takes to make a brand new aluminum
Jesus.
can. So, it went viral last week, but CNN reported that the planet we've used all the natural resources of the planet that it can produce this year. So
we're already in a deficit.
we're in a
forward.
deficit.
Yeah.
And that's
Jesus.
nutty.
Yeah.
That's nutty that we're in a deficit. So it's imperative that we save energy. It's imperative that we save natural resources. And while that's a very grand problem, look how simple the solution is. Look how simple the solution is that, check this out, right? You recycle 8 aluminum cans in a day.
Okay.
You have now produced enough energy saved enough energy to offset your consumption for one whole day. If one can saves
Jesus.
3 hours of electricity,
Yeah.
and with that in mind, you can throw a party, right?
Right.
And if you recycle your cans and your bottles there, you might actually have a carbon neutral party. If you think about it.
If there's enough people that are
If
getting
there are
the
enough people. 900 Block throws huge parties. Now, say 1,000 people come, right? And each person drinks, 1,000 people come to their next
Let's
party,
do
so
it.
we can
So
test this out.
yeah.
We can test this out.
This needs to be proven, guys.
Yes,
So,
yes, 100%.
calling on you. I wish 1,000 people even fucking viewed this podcast, but anyway.
No,
we're
slowly
getting
but
there.
surely.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely. So say they each drink 2 bottles
on
of beer.
average, yeah.
2 on
Yeah.
average, right? So right there, you've got 2,000 bottles. Times that by 3. That's how much hours of energy you've saved. And your party was 8 hours long?
Yeah.
So now you
So
have a
that's
carbon
6,000
6,000
hours of energy.
hours
Jesus
of energy.
Christ, bro.
So all your parties for a year, maybe even all 80 parties you've thrown in the last 2 years, are carbon neutral or offset. So
or even at a positive.
at a positive.
So you're it's crazy that something like the energy that's being, I mean, not even from just the drinking and the bottles itself, but the energy that the party is exhibiting with all the people dancing, all the sound, literally the energy of the entire party is giving back to the world its own kind of energy if you were to do that, for example. So if you're having a party for, let's say, 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours, if you're going an all-night party, which happens sometimes, you're producing 6,000 hours worth of energy that it's taken to produce that. That's fucking crazy.
Dude, it's on some
That's
Captain Planet.
that's wild.
It's
But see, a lot of people, they don't see the return on that. You don't need to, I think, for it to be as equally important, if not more important, the fact that, hey, you're doing it, and whether or not you see that 6,000 hours at any time is not the point.
Yeah,
but a lot of people, again, don't want to put in the work because, I got enough shit going on, or it really doesn't take that much work. But their whole thing is, I'm not really focused on that. We're trying to have a good party. We're trying to have, bring more people in and make sure the experience is good for them, because that audience is not going to know that let's say you have you curate a really good recycling setup at the party, and people are just like, I'm recycling, or I'm putting it in the recycling bin. They don't see that statistic.
No, they don't. I mean, and that's true, and that's the massive problem.
Yeah.
I think that's where there's that that lapse. But here's the thing: if you just used the slightest bit of critical thinking, right, you'll realize that you need an Earth to have a party.
Correct.
That's the very first thing you need to have a party, and that 6,000 hours of energy that you're saving, right? That is you can also add on the amount of carbon emissions that come from producing aluminum, that come from producing glass. So on top of that, because here's the thing, it's global warming is a very real thing. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Climate change is a very real thing. The thing about climate change that people don't realize is that organisms can survive in certain climates. When those climates change, those organisms can't survive,
Correct.
be it plant or animals.
Correct.
So if they change to a climate that is where these organisms are,
Inevitable.
you know,
Yeah.
then that changes the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Now you change the ecosystem and the domino effect
Yeah,
has started.
absolutely.
You know, so it's,
If it hasn't started already.
I mean, it's
Which,
already
you know.
started. I mean, we are like in the anus of the devil right now.
Yeah,
dude.
damn,
we
that's
are deep in
graphic.
it.
Hell yeah, we're
We are
deep in it.
We are deep in it.
Yes, we are.
So the thing is that while you can't see that, you know, those savings,
Yeah, the
you
direct
know,
effect.
the direct effect, it's directly affecting
Yeah,
you.
yeah, for
You
sure.
know, it's directly affecting you, and yeah, and all the more reason for people to make it like a sort of like personal issue. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? It's you know, droughts are going on longer. The ice caps are melting.
Fires are starting.
Fires
like,
are starting.
fucking crazy
I mean,
out here too.
Dude, this year, and it's just gradually, you know,
Yeah.
accelerated, and it's gotten worse, you know, and yeah, man, it's happening all around us. Like, these aren't just like random events, you know. I think some people argue, well, you know, the Earth changed, and there was the ice age, and the Jurassic period,
Yeah.
all these the periods, the Holocene and whatnot. And that's true. Like, the Earth does change, and
Yeah.
changes happen.
Yeah. But do you want to see that for our species?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, like, it's like, look, it's like, say this whole issue of change was like a shopping cart going down a hill, right?
Okay.
It's inevitable. You know what
Okay.
I'm saying? It's inevitable. Things change. But I think what we're kind of doing is that we've strapped a motor to the the handlebar of
Yeah.
the shopping cart. And what we need to do now, and let's say
And
they're
put childproof barriers so it doesn't
Yeah.
fall over and stop
doesn't
either.
fall
Yeah.
over, you know.
Yeah.
But what we need to do now is we need to take that motor on the handlebars and flip it
Put
to
it
the
in front.
nose
Yeah.
to try to slow it down. Because if it keeps pushing, it's going to topple over. At
Yeah.
some point, those wheels are going to give out, and it's going to topple over. So, you know, people that do say, oh, well, you know what, it was bound to happen. Yeah, it was. You know, Mother Earth is a living thing. She goes through changes. But not the kind of changes, you know,
that it needs to kind of do
yeah.
something. Yeah, the problem that that I'm kind of seeing with this analogy is, let's say, I mean, we're, I think, more Earth conscious now than we ever have been before. 70s, 80s, 90s, that was never like their primary thought. But now there's a lot of advocacy for climate change and global reform and, you know, what people can do. And I think a lot of people are taking steps to do their part. And some people obviously have the platform to do it at bigger scales, and they have more money to do it at bigger scales. But again, it's the same problem of the masses don't see that. The masses don't see the numbers of like, hey, this is what has been done for, you know, the Earth in regards to climate change in the past 2 to 3 years. This is what we were able to do to offset it by doing this. So if they're going to do all the legwork, show the people like, hey, this is what we're doing, and look at what we were able to accomplish. Let's say we created 6,000 hours worth of energy. That was like that statistic. Put it out so that people can see it, because people can talk all day. And I mean, you and I are talking, and whoever is listening to this, I'm hoping it resonates to them that they just have to do the legwork. That's it. You just have to be able to put the work. But I just feel like it sucks that sometimes we're not able to see just how far back are we.
I mean, you know what? I agree with you. I get that. And I was actually thinking about that when I was, researching yesterday,
Yeah.
and like thinking about what I would say. And when I started, was looking up statistics, and I realized that like statistics can be overwhelming. I also feel that sometimes like statistics, instead of like enlightening people, it kind of just becomes like this
Yeah.
he said, she said.
Mm.
It becomes like, like a fencing match or something
Sure.
like that. And so, like, I was thinking about how I relate to recycling. And, my mom, when I was like 7 or 8, like she bought like a trash can that had a separate like this hole
Sure.
for recycling
Sure.
and whatnot. And, and I was, just like recycling was always a sentiment to me. It wasn't so much so the statistics or this
Right.
this like, oh, you should do this because it's the better alternative. It was always this like, well, that's what you do,
Right.
you know. And I think
It's
that's
because you were raised properly.
that's yeah, you know. And I think that's how maybe we should like sell it or like
Yeah.
build the awareness going
Yeah.
forward, as opposed to it being such a numbers thing where all of a sudden people are looking for a value, all of a
Right.
sudden people are
That's
looking
fair.
for a fiscal value. I think it should be more of like a sentiment thing. It's like, look, dog, like we were talking about camping.
Mm-hmm.
There is like few things more humbling than being out in nature. You know, I'm not an overly religious person, but I feel closest to God when I'm surfing, when I'm in
Okay.
the water.
Okay.
You know, so to say that like being out in nature is very humbling. And the one thing that I always feel when I'm out in the water, the one thing that I felt when I was the overwhelming thing that I felt when I was in the mountains camping is just like, man, I'm so grateful to be able to participate in Mother Earth.
Right.
You know, and I think like, you know, that should maybe be the foot that we step with going forward, is like, hey man, like, yeah, there's this, all right, you know, we'll save this much and we'll save that much, and there's that much fiscal value, and
Right.
there's this much percentage for whatever. But I think it should more be like a matter of like, yo man, like this is the right thing to do. Like
Yeah.
I'm on Mother Earth and I'm a guest on Mother Earth. And you know what's an interesting fact was, I was listening to NPR a little while ago, and they were talking about how if every species on Earth, with the exception of the human race, was to
Okay.
go extinct, it would have some sort of effect on the ecosystem. We are the only species on this planet.
Oh, so if we disappeared from, the face of the earth, it really wouldn't do too
it wouldn't
much
do
for
anything. It wouldn't do anything. But she was talking about the smallest organism known to man, and it's this bacteria found in trees.
Mhm.
And if this bacteria was to somehow disappear, literally every ecosystem would break down.
Jesus Christ.
So it's one of those things where like it's humbling. That
Yeah,
information
yeah,
was very
absolutely.
humbling, and it just kind of made my resolve a little stronger, because it was like, dude, I'm very much a guest on this planet.
Yeah.
And if you enjoy going camping, if you enjoy surfing, then you or enjoy any type of outdoors activity, then you have a responsibility.
Absolutely.
You have a responsibility. It's like walking into someone's house, and Middle Eastern, South
Yep.
Asian houses, you walk into a house, you see all the shoes by the door.
Yep.
It's like walking in and looking at those shoes and then just keeping your shoes on.
Right.
You're an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, you blew your first impression.
Right.
Literally in any South Asian or Middle Eastern household, you do that.
Absolutely.
Like, you're probably not getting an invite back.
Right.
Also, your parents are going to be like, why are you hanging
It
out
spreads.
with this guy?
It spreads. Whatever it is, like the people, the house that you went to, their image of you is shot right out the gate, and then word spreads to, let's say, relatives of the family, your mom. So again, that's another way of just showing how the snowball effect with your footprint is huge. And again, it's just, I hate to play the devil's advocate, but it just sucks that people don't think that their imprint is going to do anything, which is not the fucking case, because
No,
everybody's
it's
shit
not.
can help. So yeah, man, it's tough. It's obviously that's why it's one of the most pressing issues that we have, and I think there aren't enough people talking about it. But
I mean, you bring up a really good point. And the one thing that I want, like, because you do feel kind of helpless. You do feel like, oh man, like we're dealing with tons.
yeah,
We're dealing with several tons. We're dealing with several tons every year.
yeah,
So it's like, before we can even resolve stuff from 20 years ago,
Mhm.
like we're adding another 20 tons to
Correct.
it this year. But here's the thing, and like the really, really important thing, it's like any change is going to be grassroots. Any change is going to start with the individual. And you can't look at how much you're not doing. You have to look at how much you're doing.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Like, obviously, the Imperial recycling their stuff now is a small little dent,
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think about, oh man, like there's, I don't think about how much glass is being thrown away at other bars. I think about, all right, so like we've recycled this many pounds of glass, so that's how much we've saved.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you can't look at
It's
the
the after
deficit.
effect, yeah,
You
yeah.
have to look at, you have to look at the gain. And then the other thing you do is lead by example. You know what I'm saying? Like if you, so you there are a couple apartments on this floor, right?
Correct.
So you knock on one door and just be
Yeah.
like, hey man, like I'm gonna, keep this bin outside here,
Right.
and you can put your recycling in there. And so now you've got four people
Mm-hmm.
on this floor recycling. Maybe you can go downstairs and talk to the 4 or 5 other people
Yeah.
that live there. And so now you've got what? That's 8 to 10 households that are recycling.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference. That right there just makes a big difference.
Yeah.
If not for just like how much you're saving, for how much you're not throwing away.
Correct.
And here's the other thing is that there are places in the world where this pollution is already affecting them. Like
For sure.
severely,
Yeah,
severely affecting them,
Mhm. Living conditions are like in
Yeah.
pollution, like
in
directly.
pollutions,
Yeah.
and you know what? The place that has probably the most frightening case of this is in just outside of Naples
Okay.
in Campania. I was in Naples in 2014, hanging out with some friends.
Not Mumbai.
Huh?
No, it's not in Mumbai, which is what I was the impression it was.
This particular case I'm going to talk about
Yeah.
is specific to Naples. I'm sure there's something going
Right.
on in Mumbai, but what's crazy is that because of the mafia wars in
Naples,
Campania,
okay.
in the Naples area, where like trash collection is used as a form of extortion.
What?
Yeah, it's nutty.
What
There's
does it even mean?
so it's pretty much like the garbage collecting companies are run by the Gomorra, like rival factions in Naples, in the
That's so
province.
wild.
And so what they do is that if they need to get like money out of somebody for
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
extortion, they'll come and they'll dump trash in front of
Holy
their
shit.
their restaurants
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. I mean, it's
It's like a
nutty.
calling card kind of thing. Like, yo, that
Yeah.
represents
Yeah.
their calling card kind of thing for the.
And what's crazy is that because they're like now, and that's actually kind of minor to like the major issue that they're having is that because it's run by the mafia, they dodge a lot of guidelines
Okay.
in terms
Right,
of
right, right.
disposing of
Sure,
trash.
sure.
So they go into these smaller towns and like these farmlands, and they'll just dump their all the trash in illegal landfills. But they'll literally like won't even bother digging up like trenches.
Yeah, they just put it up.
Put it up
out,
there.
yeah.
So this has been going on for, if I remember right, like 2 decades or something
Jesus
now.
Christ.
And I met this girl who was from this small town about 2 hours outside of Naples, and her town has the highest rate of infant cancer I think in Europe or in the world. It was like some big
Yeah.
like regional thing, and they found that it was because the farmland had been poisoned due to
can see
like the
that.
pollution in the
Yeah,
trash. So
yeah.
people were literally eating food that was giving them cancer. And then there was this outbreak where like newborn babies, like 2-year-olds, were
Yeah.
dying from leukemia.
That's
And
fucking rough, dude.
and it's crazy. It's crazy to think that in the modern age, in the modern world,
Yeah.
like this is going on
Yeah.
in so-called democratic governments. This is going on.
Do you think that's the modern age, do you think that's kind of defined differently from area to area? Like our modern age here, if you were to go somewhere like there, would they consider themselves to be in the modern age because of their circumstance? Because this is still happening to them, a lot of them feel like, hey, we're not a part of the modern world. We're not a first world country. We're, someone that's lesser in the eyes of the world. Because a lot of people, I'm sure, maybe 95, and this is no disrespect to anybody, 95 of the people probably don't know that. I didn't know that for sure, and it's something that hasn't affected me up until now because you haven't heard of it. So it's like that part of you're in the modern world, and I agree that it's crazy that something like this still happens in certain places. Do you think it's they're in the same state of like they need progression like we are, or how we feel about them?
No, I think you're right, actually. I think you're
tough.
right. It's really tough. It's really, really tough. I would not consider Italy a first world country at all. I've spent a lot of time there. I would consider it a second world country. I lived in Spain for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Like, I would consider Spain more of a second world country. So I think you're right. I definitely think you're right. But
It starts with us.
yeah, no, it starts
with
it
us.
starts with us. I think this is more to, or I know this is more to highlight, like, because here's the thing, Naples does not produce as much trash as Los Angeles does,
Right,
as
correct.
California does.
Correct.
You know, we already have third world countries. Like China is now refusing the trash that we send to them, that specifically
Jesus.
California sends. China is sending it back. The Philippines is now sending trash back.
Yeah.
A lot of
What
our
do they
trash.
do with the trash initially?
So they would get paid by, you know, our government, by the Canadian government is another one that did a lot of this, by other like first world countries, to just like take our trash and then do whatever they do
Yeah,
of it, you know.
interesting.
So like sometimes they would compose of it, sometimes it would just be there,
there,
like
yeah.
sitting there, you know, unfortunately. And so this year a lot of these East Asian and Southeast Asian countries have now said, hey, we're not taking your trash anymore. So
Right.
like California is literally having a problem where some of those like cargo freights were returned back
Yeah.
to them and they don't know where to put them.
Yeah.
And our local landfills are already filled up, you know. So this is a very real thing.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, I grew up right next to the worst. I don't know if it's still the case, but when I was growing up, it was common knowledge that the worst air quality in LA County was where the 10 and the 405 met in
I
West
can see
LA
that.
district.
I can see that.
You know, and
I mean, 405 in general is just a disaster. So if you're
I
going to
mean-
mark that with a 10, yeah, fuck.
yeah, you know, and I remember like I don't know if this is true, but I remember one of the neighborhood kids, Fahad, like telling me that he had read a statistic where like spending 24 hours in LA is like the equivalent, or like 24 hours in that area is
Sure.
the equivalent of smoking 9 cigarettes
What, a day?
a day.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And then there's the people that smoke cigarettes on top of that.
On top of that.
Jesus.
So it means to say that it is affecting you. You know,
Absolutely.
it is affecting you, and it's something that, like I said again, like look, I gave a very grand example, but like I said before, the solution is very tangible. You know, like I said, if you're able to gather a couple of people, a couple of bars,
Yeah,
a couple
yeah.
of parties, and get them to start recycling, and another thing, like about, you were talking about like solutions and whatnot for the nightlife scene. I know that like Heineken now has started this year, last
Mhm.
year, at some major festival in the Netherlands, they went ahead and their bars were made out of all recycled materials.
Nice.
And so like now Heineken is doing
Yeah.
like, you know, kind of promoting
Starting
itself
initiatives
on
on
that
their end, yeah.
front. So you can even find sponsors
Yeah.
that would want to like work with you on the recycling
Yep.
front, and you know, it's definitely like a good marketing scheme. You know, we're in a day in the social media age, like idealisms are,
Yeah.
you know, they're the big sell. You know,
Yep.
and if we can spin that for our advantage, to our advantage, to, you know, to the Earth's advantage,
Yeah.
then why not?
Yeah,
You know,
I agree.
There are a lot of people and there are a lot of things that a lot of businesses that will work with you to
For sure.
facilitate you know, that kind of event.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what
I
I'm
agree.
saying?
I mean, we have a, just for the sake of example, we have a monthly event that we host with Pattern Bar, which is, you know, a location. Shout out to Pattern Bar. Great people, great management. Everything just operates so in the favor of, you know, the house music community. And it's not even something that's underground. This is above ground, fully legit
Yeah.
spot. And I just know that they consistently host shows pretty much Monday through Sunday. So I would love to at least work with you and talk with them and see what we can do to do something with their recycling.
Yeah. No, I mean, and honestly, if anybody here is works in bars, in restaurants, in clubs, you know, just, you know, take it upon yourself. Like, if you really want this to happen, facilitate it yourself. I'm sure your managers would be willing to
Yeah,
listen
absolutely.
to you if it's already presented to them, if the complete package is already presented to them. More so if, you know, if someone wants to reach out to me on Instagram, I know you've posted my Instagram up, I can go ahead and, you know, speak to the kind lady that comes and collects our recycling. I'm sure she'll be so stoked. I mean, she's like the sweetest person. I've never seen someone geek out on empty glass like she
Right.
does. So,
Yeah, hit him up directly. Hit me up directly. I can link you to him. We can all work together. I mean, again,
Yeah.
this is a very there's gems of knowledge in this conversation, and I think it's something that's like a lot of things like mental health and like certain things that people don't like to talk about because they don't want to be doing the work. This is one of those things where that's fine. Don't do the fucking work. We'll just have to start doing it. You're already starting to do it, and you know you're vision of what you want for the world is translating to me. And now it's something that it's really not that difficult to do. And I know it's not difficult to do, but it's something that's very second thought. So to have it being said like, hey, it's really that simple, and to have the conversation with someone about it is hopefully, you know, with me and what I'm going to do with our collective now, and I want to work with you and this woman or some other organization, is do our part. And then we can hopefully get this, hopefully to the people that are listening, hopefully to even with the events that we host, like we're going to promote that this is actually happening, and hopefully it can kind of start to set a precedent for the scene out here.
Man, that's the hope. That's the hope. And that would just be like, and you know, LA is a city where culture, this is like one of the premier cities in the world. Absolutely. Culture comes out of this city. So it's not foolish to say that, like, even at like a national, international scale, if we can do it here in LA, you know, then other people will catch on too, and then it'll just become the norm. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there were so many things that were, I mean, remember when selfies were taboo? You know what I'm saying? And now it's just the most acceptable. Now they got sticks. You know, I mean, I don't even know if that's a good, like, it's a good, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is that it can become such a, like, mediocre household thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think
second thought. It doesn't become second thought, but it becomes natural. And I think that's generous. Like you're saying, start raising your kids that way. Start creating a household and a culture that is just the way it is. It shouldn't just be you just toss your shit out and dump it, and then that's it. Like, there has to be some thought into what you're doing.
Dude, I mean, recycling's sexy, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like, make recycling a thing, dude.
Make
like,
recycling sexy,
dude.
Man.
Who knows? Like, I heard yoga girls like to recycle, you know. So maybe you'll meet a yoga girl at like a recycling center.
Well, not me, not me, baby. Don't worry.
But,
I can't wait.
But you know,
totally.
like, it's,
I mean,
like
it's a representative of a good characteristic of a person. If you're doing it, it's not like you're doing it and people are like, oh, fuck that guy. He recycles.
No,
like,
100%.
Come on.
Me personally, it's such a turnoff if someone doesn't recycle.
Doesn't give a shit.
Like, literally, it's like if I'm with a girl and she's messy and like fuck, and I'm like, dude, clean your car, and she cleans her car, but she throws away all the bottles and whatnot. It's like, dude,
damn,
that's
you must
not
be tough. You're a tough
dude.
one.
I'm just like, dude, like, come on.
But you have what's the word I'm looking for? You have a. It's like embedded in you. The fuck am I? What's the word I'm looking for?
I guess embedded would work. Yeah, you know, like.
Not any fucking way. I don't know. I'll figure it out. You have it's part of you.
No,
I'll say that much. It's a part of
you.
you, so I can understand you wanting that from your significant other.
My thing is that, like, look, a little effort goes a long way.
Yeah.
It's not even like so much so that it's a part of me. I think it's like, you know, I was raised in a household where my mom and dad are just like, dude, don't be lousy. Whatever you do, don't be lousy. You know, and I just feel like a little effort goes a long way. You know, even when I was thinking about this conversation, you know, we can literally, like, this conversation is so black and white. Like, the issue at hand, the solutions for the issue, that you can have this conversation with somebody in 10 minutes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so black and white. Like, I think it's good that people elaborate on it, because you get ideas from, like, different people,
of course.
You know, and you know, even in my research, there were things that, like, I came about that I wouldn't have thought of off the bat, you know? And so it's important to talk about this stuff, but really it's like, don't get overwhelmed or lost in the talk. It's really just something to do. It's really just, it's literally,
don't stress
like,
yourself out about it. It's just
don't
that
stress
simple.
yourself. It's that simple, and the solution is that simple too. And just worry about yourself. You know what I'm saying? Don't worry about all the people that aren't recycling. You know, worry about yourself.
Yeah, of course.
Don't worry about all the bars that aren't, you know, doing this and that. Start with yours. And start with your collective.
It'll pick up,
start
man.
With your party.
It'll pick up, man. I'm telling you, I agree. That's something, like, again, you talk about it enough and you actually implement it. My buddy Ray Cash and I, who was the first person I had on the podcast, we're actually in the works right now of starting like a nonprofit organization where the goal is to do something to give back. And it was one of those where I didn't want to just say that we were doing it and not do anything about it. So he and I actually went yesterday and worked with the homeless, and we did our part to actually, like, put our money where our mouth is and show that it's really, it was 2 hours of our day. It was literally, we drove to West Hollywood and helped out and handed out food and met some really great people who are trying to, like, change themselves and try to just have that extra helping hand. And we were the people who kind of helped, and we really didn't do anything.
Yeah, I mean,
it's really that easy.
it-
Like
it's-
you're really not going to be doing much, but the effects of what you're doing are tremendous.
Yeah, it's important. Like that's the thing. Like while this stuff is, yes, it's very casual. It's so important.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like what you did yesterday is so important on so many levels. On like, just in a practical, like in a visceral way. It's so important. And I just yeah, man. It's like what 2 hours is how much time do
Literally
you
2
spend
hours.
choosing a Netflix show? You know what
I
I'm
was
saying?
sitting in my bed for 2 hours before when I
Yeah.
got up today. We're doing like small bits of work, but it was literally 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock on the dot. It was done, and you're back in your car and back to your day.
It's that
It's
easy,
really
dude.
that easy.
It's
It's just
so easy.
you have to try to convince people like, hey, these 2 hours where this is not something that you're used to doing, and you're not even necessarily going to do it every week, but just come see. That's it.
Dude, I mean, and honestly,
once.
dude, like that's the nice way to go about it.
Yeah.
Which you're a very nice guy. Jod is 2 thumbs up, but I mean, just call people out.
Yeah.
Dude, just call people out. Like it's just like, yo, dude, like you post all this stuff on your Instagram
Right.
and your stories
Right.
and this and that, and you're all for it, and you're like some yoga hippie and
Mhm.
whatnot, and it's like, dude,
Yeah, I expect to see you there.
I expect to see you there. Like, fuck your chakra, dude. How much did you recycle?
Right.
Like,
Right.
so it's yeah, just take ownership. Just
Yeah.
take ownership of your actions. Just take ownership of your ideals.
Yeah.
And again, like going back to it, dude, it's like, yo, if we create this culture little by little, you talk to Pattern Bar, right?
Right.
And so now Pattern Bar will consider, all right, like maybe I know Pattern Bar uses single-use plastics, right? Maybe they'll consider putting out like at their water station.
Yeah. Correct.
Maybe with that they'll consider, and this is not calling them out,
Right.
you know what I'm saying, but like maybe they'll consider, all right, man, like why don't we just get, non-throwaway cups,
Right, and then
you know
put
what I'm
it-
saying, water
put it somewhere,
station,
yeah.
put it over there, and it's like it's just gonna be, venues will start being like, hey, okay, we have this recycling program too,
Right, correct.
as well, and yeah, dude, like I said again, just set stuff up, like if you work at a bar or a restaurant, like so important, and hence I'm repeating myself,
Yeah.
is just set up a program. If you can't find somebody, go to your local recycling center. Unfortunately, there are not many of them, but just, take some time out, like maybe take the long way home, and talk to somebody over there. There's definitely going to be
Someone's
somebody
gonna know.
over
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
Or, dude, like, I mean, we have so many people that rummage through recycling and trash, so you can, like, bring it home. If you're
Yeah.
able to carry it home, just bring it home and leave it beside your dump.
Yeah.
And someone's going to come and take it, and it's going to be like, not only are you helping the environment, but then also you're helping somebody make money.
Yeah, for sure.
Like tenfold. It's really like,
It pays dividends on
simple.
all ends.
Yeah,
There's no negative to,
Yeah,
to
it's-
doing this, especially with a lot of the events that we host in downtown. You're telling me there's not a single homeless person out there that you can just tap on the shoulder and be like, hey, man, instead of here's a cigarette, like, do you want to come and make some
Yeah.
money? Come just
Yeah.
collect all the cans and glass that's going to be here. You just have to make sure you obviously dispose of it in the right way. But that's just one of the examples that you could.
I
just
mean, that's
go-
actually a genius idea.
Yeah, you
That's
can find someone.
literally
yeah.
a genius
Yeah.
idea, and it's literally that adage: one man's trash is
There's another man's treasure. Yeah. Be the change you wish to see in the world. I was talking to someone
100%,
yesterday, and I literally had
100%.
the same conversation where it's like, you want, like you said, it's not so much like fuck your chakras, but if you're going to be that person, if you're going to represent yourself as someone who cares, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Being on social media and just saying like, hey,
Yeah.
this is this, sure, but if you can actually, and this is not to say like post what you're doing,
Yeah.
which I did when I went to the homeless thing yesterday, so whatever, my bad, not to toot,
You're just cute like
it's
that.
just one of those things, bro. Whatever
cute
it
like
is,
that.
whatever it is, just fucking do something. That's it.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be this big fucking talk, I didn't want to do shit and not put my fucking money where my mouth is, and not be an example that, hey, you have the fucking time. Don't tell me you don't have the time to like do anything for anybody else. That's fucking bullshit. Absolutely bullshit.
No, 100%, man, 100%, and yeah, dude, just do it. Like
Yeah.
simply put, just do it. Just make an effort. If I can do it, then you can do it. Because literally, it just took like a thought, then talking to two or
One
three
phone call,
people,
yeah.
and then literally the week that I posted it up in the work chat, like 3-4 days later, it was like the universe
Yeah.
got caught onto the work chat. 3-4 days later, me and Ricardo and my friend Thalia were walking down Sunset Boulevard, and we head to Sunset Beer Co. which is closed, and there's this lady organizing
Wow.
recycling,
Yeah, that's
and like that, you know what I'm saying?
universe.
It's like 3 days later, the universe just,
you spoke it
you
into
know,
fruition.
you know, the heifer showed up, and yeah, so just
The
make
heifer?
the heifer, you know, the boss lady.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that's not the definition I have of heifer, but
oh, really?
we'll go with the boss
Oh,
lady. We'll go
okay.
with the boss lady. Whatever. If you know, you know. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on? I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No, not at all, not at all. I mean, I think that, I mean, I just want Below Decks to come back. You
We're
know,
working on
that
it.
was
Oh,
definitely
there's some
something I
talks.
wanted to, you know, I have nothing to plug, so I want to
Yeah.
plug Below Decks and 900 block, and yeah, dude, I'm really actually looking forward
Yeah.
to the next one.
Yeah,
So,
we're working on it. We're gonna get something up. I mean, it's a little, again, we just have so much going on. It's not an excuse, but there's just a lot of like events we're kind of trying to line up. So the all vinyl night, it kind of took a back seat because it
I
wasn't
get
something
that.
but if we can work something out, I mean, you'll definitely be in the loop. But
Dude,
I'm gonna set up camping with you and Stefan coming up. I'm actually gonna talk to Pattern Bar today. So
Right
I'm
on,
going to
very
see if we
cool,
can at
man.
least do
Stoked.
something for our event. I don't know if they want to like necessarily fully integrate it with all
No,
the
of
events that they
course.
have there, but whatever we can do to help,
Yeah.
you got
No,
you got
dude,
my
and,
support.
and like start small. You don't want to inconvenience people. You don't want a hard
Right,
no.
right.
You don't want a hard no.
Right.
So it's better to just start small.
Yeah.
And then just ease people
Yeah,
into it.
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
especially with businesses, if they feel like they're going to be disrupted
Yep.
in a certain way. I'm a bar back. Like if you were to tell me that something's going to happen that's going to take up 15 more minutes of my time, I'm probably going to be a little agitated.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so you definitely got to ease people into it. But hell yeah, dude, I'm stoked. Hell yeah.
Me too. I appreciate you coming on, man. Again, Gems of Knowledge. If you guys want to help out in any way, if you work at bars, if you throw your own party and you guys are into the idea of just having someone collect the glasses and fucking plastic, reach out to me, reach out to Humza. I'll get you connected and let's fucking do something. Just do it.
Dude, yeah.
We're gonna end it.
Easy
Just
as
do
that.
it.
Easy as that.
Thanks
Dude.
for coming out, bro.
Hey, dude, thank you so
Thanks
much.
for tuning in, everybody.